Due to the nature of our business, incidents can occur in many different ways. Incidents could be in the form of an injury to personnel in the workplace, an environmental spill, production incidents that cause a loss to the company, reputation losses, or a near miss, where an incident happened but due to circumstances there was no injury to personnel or loss incurred. Whenever an incident occurs, it is critical that the immediate cause, contributing factors, and the root cause have been identified, and that suitable and sufficient mitigations have been implemented to prevent a reoccurrence. In this session, we will look at how BGP Offshore captures the information gathered from an investigation and enters that information into Flag. BGP Offshore encourages open and honest reporting. We will not make the workplace safe or become efficient if we are not addressing incidents at every location. It's the duty of the location line management to ensure that factual information has been gathered and recorded in Flag. On the homepage of the location that has the duty to record the incident, locate the Incident Report tab. If you have the authority to enter an incident, you will see the New Incident Report link. Click on this link to start the report. This page is the starting point for capturing the data from the investigation. This page is for the registration of the incident into Flag. Once we provide this information and save it, we will then have further opportunities to add more data. The report title needs to give future readers a good understanding of the incident. So for this example, we will use unsecured oil drums rolling around the back deck. Select the appropriate date and time the incident occurred. It is important to be as factual as possible when entering any information, and this should have been agreed by the incident investigation team. Now enter the date the report is being entered into Flag. Enter the name of the person reporting the incident into Flag. And select the reporter's job role. Now we need to indicate information that can be used for filtering at a later stage. If personnel were injured, we would click on Personnel Related. In this example, nobody was hurt. We will click to indicate that the captain has been informed. This is also a prompt to make sure that BGP Offshore has ensured the captain has been informed of the incident. If we are on a project, we will inform the onboard client, who in turn shall inform their onshore management team. If the incident is subcontractor related, we will indicate so here. This is not a blame exercise, but it helps BGP Offshore understand how incidents happen. The incident type drop-down list allows us to understand what type of incidents are occurring on board at this location and across BGP Offshore in general. We may be suffering a trend of incidents that would be highlighted when all incidents across the company are analysed. As with incident types, it is also important we classify the incident. For this example, we will use Incident Near Miss. These can both be changed at a later date as more information is provided. As this example is a near miss involving oil drums, there were no accidents to personnel, so we can enter 0 here. If an individual had been injured, and the severity of the injury caused the individual to be unfit for work on any day after the day of the injury, then we would enter the number of days away from work. Here, we will look to understand which department will take responsibility for this incident. Again, this is not a blame culture, but trying to understand how we apply resources to correct issues. Here, we will use Asset as the main severity type, as the oil drums could have been punctured or damaged equipment when rolling around. Again, this should be agreed by the investigation team. It is important, even in a near miss, that we understand the potential risks. For this example, we will select C1. It has happened in the company and the asset loss was level 1. If you need to be reminded of the risk matrix, a link is available at the top of the incident form in bold red. From the drop-down for severity rating, we will select 1, light. Again, this can be modified at a later date if the team feels it should be adjusted. What we have done so far is provide a range of filters that will be used during analysis of all location and company-wide incidents. Now, we move on to the description. There are a few things that should be mentioned at this point. When we enter information here, we are not giving our opinion of the event or what we think happened. Instead, we will only enter the factual information that we have gathered. Let's see the difference between two descriptions.
When I went onto the back deck, I noticed two 55-gallon oil drums rolling around on the gun deck. The oil drums were rolling around the deck and could have damaged machinery, injured personnel, or even split the oil in the drums into the sea. I think they were not secured correctly, and when the boat rolled, they must have tipped over.
The problem with the above statement is there are little to no facts, and the individual is making assumptions of what happened and could have happened. Now, let's look at a better example of factual description. Date: 1st of January 2018, 0900 hours. Two 55-gallon drums were unloaded from the supply vessel MV Malone and placed on the upper deck to be lowered to the gun deck. 1000, on-duty crane operator and banksman transferred the two 55-gallon oil drums to the gun deck via the portside hatch. 10:15, the on-duty AB was requested to secure the two drums in a secure bunded area. And so on, and so on. In the second example, we have only recorded factual information, and neither have we made any assumptions. The more facts that can be gathered and recorded allows others not involved to have a clear picture of the incident. This section should capture as much information as possible about the event and any contributing factors. Now that the report has been completed, it can be saved to the system. We can always come back and add or edit information at any time if required. Once saved, you will see the draft unapproved report has been registered in Flag. At this time, Flag will start a workflow to move the report along and request approval from line management to make the report available to others. At the bottom of the report, you will see that Flag has started the process of getting the report approved. A work item has now been sent to the location line manager that is responsible for that location or crew. The workflow will request that they review the report and either approve it or reject it. If the location line manager feels that it is not an incident report, they have the authority to reject the incident. It is important that we do record incidents correctly. For example, they may feel that the incident that is being recorded should be a SOP instead. If it is rejected, the location line manager responsible should provide a clear reason why it was rejected. If the line manager feels it is an incident and should be recorded, they will then click on the Approve button. Once the report has been accepted into the system, Flag will automatically generate work items for other managers to review parts of the report. They will include Vessel Managers, Director of Operations, Environmental Manager, and the CFO. They are tasked with reviewing the report to ensure that the report has been completed correctly. It may take a couple of days from the time of the initial report until it has been fully populated. You will now see that Flag has added additional questions that will require to be answered. The first question is Toolbox Talk conducted? Here, we want to know that a Toolbox Talk was undertaken prior to starting the task. If yes, click on the box. If you answered yes, you will need to add the reference number of the Toolbox Talk associated with the task. In our example, we will not tick the box, as there hadn't been a Toolbox Talk for the assigned task of strapping the oil drums. Next, we need to know if a drug and alcohol test has been performed, in order to rule this out of the investigation as being a contributing factor. Again, for this example, we will not record a drug and alcohol test. In the Intervention Failed field, we want to know if this could have been prevented if a timeout for safety had been called. Here, we will tick the box. If the AB had informed the bridge that the two drums were not secure and had the potential to topple over, then the incident could have been prevented. If the AB had raised the concern, then maybe another person could have been used. In the comments box below, we could make the comment, AB could have informed the bridge that he had not had time to complete a task and would be leaving the drums in a hazardous condition. The next question asked is, any legal compliance failure? When BGP Offshore investigates an incident, we need to know if we have failed any legal compliance, and so this needs consideration. For instance, some activities that we perform have a legal requirement to them. For example, working with electricity. We have a duty of care to ensure that personnel can perform an activity safely, that we have reduced the risks, and implemented measures to prevent an incident from happening. In this example, there were no legal compliance issues. The last question that we have to answer for now is rest hours an issue. Here, we need to understand how long the individual had been working and if he had gone past the allotted hours for work that day. In the comments section below, we should record how long the individual had been on duty and also how long they had been on board the vessel for the current rotation. If the root cause is known when starting the report, we can go ahead and enter it in the root cause section. We record the causes a little later on when we get to the additional options available. So for now, we will leave this section blank and come back to it. Now save the report again. Once saved, it allows other interested parties to see any updates that have been made. Once we have finished entering the factual statements and answering the additional questions, we can start to look at the supporting tabs available in the Incident Report section. In the Work Items tab, you will see all the work items that have been generated to support the closure of the incident report and to implement changes that were required to prevent a reoccurrence. The work items are generated the same way throughout Flag, by going to the top of the incident report and clicking on Add Follow-up Actions. Work items will normally be generated to support the Contributing Factors and Causes tab. We will come back to this later on. The Eyewitness tab is used to do two things. Firstly, to record personnel that have witnessed the event or were involved in the event. This is an important step. With some incidents, we may have to open them up again after a couple of years, and we need to be able to know who was involved and what they had stated at the time. In this section, we will record the names of the individuals involved from the drop-down list, and the parent company they work for, again from the drop-down list. In the short description, we will record a brief copy of what they have stated. This is for a quick reference when reviewing the report. Their fully written and signed statement will be attached here. In the comments section, the investigating team may want to add some information. For instance, Gun Chief was interviewed 2 hours after the incident was first reported. When we have completed this section, we will save it. Once saved, you can now add the written signed witness statement to this input by clicking on the New Attachments. When the attachment screen appears, type a title for the attachment. For example, Chief Gun Mechanic's Statement. Click on the File box to select the file to be added. Once selected, enter the created date if it is different to the automatic date and time that appears. The final part of this section provides a brief comment about the statement. Statement provided at 1200 hours by the Chief Gun Mechanic. We can now save this eyewitness statement. If there are more eyewitnesses, each should be recorded. The Notes section allows for the investigation team and line managers supporting the report to be able to add information or updates related to the incident. To add a note, click on the Notes link. When the box opens up, you can enter a title for the note, Equipment Used. The name of the person entering the note should appear automatically. If not, use the drop-down menu and select your name. Check that the date note created is correct. Next, we can add a note to the report. By adding comments, we can help interested parties get a fully clear understanding of the incident and what was done during the incident to verify facts. We can now save this note to the report. Non-conformance. This section is the same as the main non-conformance section, and we should follow the process described in the supporting training video. In an investigation, we are trying to understand why the incident happened. The investigation may indicate that processes were not followed correctly, in which case we will record a non-conformance. which would be attached to this report. Attachments. This section is for adding documents, photographs, reports, and any additional information that will be used to support the investigation. This process is the same as that for the eyewitness statement. Costs. With any incident, it is very important that the costs from the incident have been recorded properly. This section can be added to, as costs are clarified. This may take a couple of weeks in some cases. The first part is to select the cost type from the drop-down menu. Then type in the amount of the loss, for instance, $3,000. Then type a description of the cost, for instance, helicopter for vessel manager to come to the vessel. Once you have added a comment, you can save it. We repeat this process per cost associated with the incident. We should not state a single whole cost that covers everything. For this example, we don't have any costs. Contributing factors and causes. This section is one of the most important parts of the investigation. It needs to be agreed on by the whole incident investigation team. First, we identify the type of cause or factor from the drop-down list. We would normally start with the immediate cause, and then move on to contributing factors and finally root causes. Once we have the type of cause selected, we will then select the contributing factors or cause. These are divided into 9 subsections to help personnel when trying to define the reason. They are: individual, about the actual person; behavior related to the task; procedure process issues; issues when undertaking the task; equipment issues; work environment issues; communication issues; PPE related issues; and leadership issues. We should look to select the appropriate issue that explains what the immediate cause was. In this case, the drums toppled over, so we could select 5.06, incorrect placement of tools, equipment or materials. In the comments section, we can add further information that explains why we selected this factor or cause. This will help others in understanding. Continuing with our example, a failure to secure the drums in the secure holding area led to the drums falling over when the vessel movement increased. Anyone now reading the report will understand what we identified as an issue. Once complete, we can save this factor cause and continue to enter contributing factors and then the root cause in the same process. This should be copied into the main report in the root cause section. In the Lessons Learnt tab, we are looking to share good and bad experiences from the incident. The date will be preset for the date the lessons learnt will be added. In the Issue is Related to field, select from one of the broad areas provided. Description of issue. Here, we will write a brief description of the issues related to the incident. In the What Went Well field, we need to look at any positives that happened during or after the incident. In the What Went Wrong section, we need to identify where the process failed. This is not a blame exercise, but rather making sure we have pointed out where we had a breakdown in the process. In the Recommendations section, we will give a brief overview of what was implemented or changed. Once this page has been completed, it should be saved. If you require a working copy of the incident report, you can print one by selecting the View Report link and then print as required. When we have the information in Flag, it is important that the incident is reviewed and updated until it has been officially closed by the senior management. Location line managers are expected to make this a part of QHSSE discussions during weekly line management meetings. During this session, we have learned about the various sections to be completed when reporting an incident in Flag and providing sufficient details where required. Important aspects to remember are: when entering details, be factual about the incident. Answer the questions, which are also prompts to remind us. Assign work items to address the issues identified. Record as much evidence as possible. use all the supporting tabs available. Once all the data about the incident has been entered into Flag, it will be visible to all personnel assigned to that location. As stated before, Flag is an open, honest reporting program used by BGP Offshore. It is used to ensure we can improve our operations and to make the workplace safer for everyone.